So I talked to Vicky yesterday, my wife.
Okay.
She, I said, we because we go to Germany every year, and this year is going to be the first year that we don't go outside of COVID.
Okay.
And for the next years, I'm thinking or hoping that we can meet our parents somewhere in the middle. So I suggested to her yesterday to maybe go to Hainan and meet there with maybe some family. It'd be
Mhm.
10 hours for us or something like that, and 10 hours for them. Be pretty cool.
Okay. And what was her reaction?
Yeah, I mean, she's totally on board.
Wow, that's
She'd
great.
love to even move there for some time and check it out, right? I think she's really open when it comes to that. We'll check out some new places. Yeah. But I think we're definitely going to visit before we move this time.
Yeah.
And yeah, but like, maybe I should just mention this because, Hainan is like, as soon as, where you've been telling me about China a lot, and I got interested in it a while ago, and I've never visited it, but I just thought to myself, it'd be cool to someday live there. The only thing that really puts me off with China is the population density in these like top places, I guess. I don't like people, or I don't like big crowds, or like, yeah, I'd rather have a bit of peace and quiet, a bit of nature, if that's possible. And we had an amazing holiday once when we lived in Singapore, in Taiwan. And Taiwan is pretty cool because the east coast is empty. There's nothing, just a small few towns. They get like really high, beautiful mountains and rivers and coast and surf. And the west coast is like all urban. There's fast trains, and there's big cities. And so you kind of get the mix of both. But if I had to decide, I'd move to the part where there's not too much. And so I looked that up in China, and China, I'm not sure if Hainan is really that low population density wise, but it at least has, it seems, a bit of nature or beach or surf, not too
Yeah.
populated. And then when they introduced this thing that where they said they're going to introduce, like, start to do it like this free trade zone, right, where you could, maybe taxes are lower, immigration is easier, visas are easier to get, stuff like that. I thought like, oh, that'd be cool to try that out.
Yeah. Exciting. And you don't have much to lose, but you have a lot to gain, right? Like if it doesn't work out, you can always head back to Australia or New Zealand. But then if it does work out and you do find um, a group of people you can get along with, and they're probably all going to be foreigners with different degrees of knowledge of what China is about, right? It could be a pretty cool time.
Yeah. So what do you think it's going to be like there? Will it be like, how close to the expat community of Singapore will it be? Because I imagine it will be very hard for us to mingle with the locals because the language barrier is just going to be massive.
Yeah, but you don't know. I mean, there are a lot of Chinese now that can speak English, and especially those our age. I think if you go to Hainan, the average Chinese person that you're gonna bump shoulders with is not going to be from Hainan. They would have probably moved
Mm.
there as well to be part of this thing, right? Even today, with Hainan being some sort of a beach destination, you get a lot of foreigners there, plus Chinese from other parts of China. So it's already a bit of a melting pot now. So I think that's why they chose it.
Is that sort of the image in that also you'd see on, I call it mainland Chinese?
Yeah,
China? Is that the image that the people think of when they think of Hainan?
yeah. It's this. You know, they know about it traditionally and the culture there and everything, but they also think about it as this international tourist spot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll definitely do a holiday there.
It's so crazy because on the weekend, me and my wife and kids went and met up with a German family. We're close friends with them. These guys, they're your very classic Leipzig center left or center green type family, right? Like they're vegetarian, they try and do the right thing. And they're very definitely liberal democracy is super important to them. You know how it is, right?
Mm-hmm. I
And
do.
before we left, we said, "Hey, bye. Um, maybe see you in July because we're gonna be traveling." And they said, "Hey, you know what? It's so crazy, but 2, 3 days ago, we just said, oh, why don't we just move to China since everything's such a mess?"
Wow.
Yeah, and I said, "Well, check out Hainan because this thing's happening."
I'd love to meet some center left people in Hainan when we move there or go there.
Yeah, because it's just usually it's okay. It's yeah, China's not seen very favorably from the people that, let's say, are quite pro the European Union, European Commission, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
They're not usually the same group that goes, oh yeah, let's go check China out. Because, for them, the ideals of how a government should work is, I think, more of a priority than how the society actually functions.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I was super surprised that they went, oh, with things being as unstable as it is. Let's just timestamp it, right, for the future. Right now, they're talking about taking Greenland, or Trump's talking about taking Greenland, showing a bit of a hissy fit because he didn't get the Nobel Prize. It's a few weeks after
Venezuela.
Maduro in Venezuela got kidnapped. And I think for the Europeans, it's like this saying, right? Like, you might not be interested in politics, but politics might get interested in you.
Mm.
And I think they're finally seeing that for them, the most important thing could have been always solar panels, eating clean, recycling, whatever, right? But something outside of the Shire has come in and disrupted that. I think it then changes your mindsets pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like these would be sort of the last people, those friends that you described, that would say something like that
Yeah.
in my mind, right? Like for the two of us or other friends that have moved to different countries, it's not a big step to do something like that or say something like that. But for someone like that in Germany who's never left, who's pro everything in Germany to say something like that, that's a bit of a smoke alarm.
Yeah, I think they see the chaos around them, and say you're in another country, right? Like, say you're in Australia or in Singapore or something like that, and say you meet with some instability. I think your first reaction is looking towards your leader, your leadership team, and then thinking about how to mitigate against that instability, right?
Hmm.
And seeing if you can come into the situation to correct the ship, so to speak, right? But it seems like over here, there's this strong sense of lack of agency almost. It's like everybody's just watching and maybe complaining or maybe shouting very loudly about their opinions. But I
Hmm.
think after having conversations with a few of them, if you dig past the surface a little bit, nobody really feels like the people in charge can right the ship. With all the conversations that I've had, I just get this feeling of resignation.
Hmm. Yeah.
And it's so funny because today, just right now, they're all meeting in Davos, right? And
Hmm.
the Belgian prime minister came out and said this crazy line, right? He said, being a happy vassal state is one thing, being a miserable slave is totally something else,
Mm.
right?
So they're saying the quiet part out loud.
Yeah. So it seems, like all these things is just happening suddenly so quickly. And Macron saying he wants to invite China to come and do massive investment in the EU.
Hmm.
So it's just such a
What a change.
180-degree turn.
Yeah.
And all it took was for Trump to say he wants Greenland.
Yeah. I think that was the thing, right? That was the move because yeah, I mean, if he does take it and the Europeans don't consent, then NATO is gone, right? And NATO used to be that thing that united them all. And if that isn't anymore, then what does Europe do? One could say that the Germans would have been good buddies with the Russians if it weren't for the Americans influencing them not to. So yeah,
And
maybe.
Europe will struggle to function without like this strong idealism, right? Because
Yeah.
they're a very idealistic state.
Hmm.
And so if Trump comes in and takes Greenland super blatantly, going against all these European ideals, what does Europe do, right?
Yeah.
They have like an identity crisis.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if they don't do anything against that, right? And I think it's much easier to, if you have the Americans backing you in your corner, to go and, go wild against the Russians and say we're going to deploy troops and stuff like that. But it's a very different thing if you don't have that sort of ally and you go against the Americans and say, we're going to keep Greenland, right? And then you let that escalate. That doesn't sound like a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting events. So where's that going to take us? More, what are they going to do? They're going to ally with the Chinese. They're going to ally with the Russians again.
Who knows, man? I think it'll take years to pan out, but those years will be still compressed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I honestly don't think it's such a bad thing, right? As a German, I'd
Yeah.
honestly much rather have them band together more with the Chinese and the Russians than with the Americans. Because I don't think the Americans always had or never had Europe's best interests in mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I don't think China will have or Russia will have, but it's more like the Americans seem to be that or have been that bully.
I think the difference is the Americans live on a continent that is away and is safe, right?
Yeah.
So for them, it's always an option to create and sow chaos
Mm-hmm.
to get a relative advantage when they then retreat to their stability back home, right?
Yeah.
But why China, Germany, Russia, and these countries would be more natural, I wouldn't say allies, but being able to work together would be because they would all understand the checks and balances and the realpolitik of how everybody depends on each other.
Yeah. Being on one continent. Yeah.
Yeah, you're on one continent. One party needs another party's energy. Another one needs their know-how. Another one needs their market, right? And it's much easier to talk about win-win because if one loses, everybody loses.
Yeah.
But with America, there's that dynamic where you can still go, no, America can win and everyone else lose. Because that's
Yeah.
what happened in World War One and World War Two, right?
And the years after that.
Yeah. Like if you go and make trouble in Libya or in Afghanistan, the migrants don't go to America, they go to Europe, right? That
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
instability, the fundamentalism then spreads to China and spreads to Europe and spreads to Russia, right? It doesn't. America's able to just pull up the ladder after they get home, right?
Yeah. They're in a much better position with that. Yeah.
Yeah, you can read that Mackinder, that heartland theory. He's been talking about that for like 200 years, saying that the sea powers of the United Kingdom, the US, even Australia, Japan, Canada, right? All these countries, they cannot compete if Eurasia becomes united.
Mm.
So
Yeah. I
their
think I heard
job
that.
is to
Yeah.
always sow chaos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that they don't unite. Yeah. But it's an interesting move that this is what Trump is now doing.
Yeah, who knows, right? Who knows
Right.
if he's doing it on purpose or not? I mean,
I don't know, but like with actions like that, someone in America must understand that will bring these other guys closer together.
yeah. But I think that's a price he's probably willing to pay if he can somehow get the ball rolling to get America industrialized again.
Yeah, back on track.
Yeah, I don't think it'll happen during his administration, but I think he wants to set the dominoes going.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, very interesting things unfolding for sure.
Yeah. And for me, being somebody that's been looking at markets like on a daily basis, just because I love all these geopolitical things and seeing how they affect the prices of different assets across the world, right? It's so crazy to see how it's playing out because you see the Japanese bond markets going berserk, like actually breaking down,
Mm-hmm.
and the Japanese bonds is the first leg of a carry trade where everyone borrows money in Japanese yen and then invests it all over the world in more higher yielding assets, right?
Because it
Including a
was
lot of
cheaper to
American
borrow
assets.
in Japanese yen.
Yeah, you'd borrow Japanese yen at, 0.5%, and then you'd
Because the
go,
Japanese kept these rates artificially low.
yeah, yeah.
And so people arbitrage that to buy or get cheap money out of Japan and then invest that elsewhere.
Yeah, you'd take that money and go buy like an Australian government bond or something like that was yielding back in the day 4, 5, 6, 7%, and then you would buy an Aussie dollar Japanese yen hedge, right, to hedge the currency risk, and then you make that spread, and then you leverage it like crazy, and you do it. Basically it just grows humongous, right? So if anyone's listening and they're interested, they can go and pull up a chart of, how much Japanese government bonds is currently being held by the Central Bank of Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Like all this debt's been bought by the by the Central Bank of Japan to keep that interest rate low.
Yeah.
Something like 200% of GDP or more, right?
Yeah. But I mean, I listened to this podcast the other day where someone explained how that would unwind and impact not just Japan, but also the Western world, right?
Yeah, yeah. What did you hear then?
I hope I don't butcher it, but I think it was something where because all these guys borrowed the cheap money to buy Western assets, if this Japanese money sort of falls apart, right? Like if they raise interest rates, that's a way it could collapse. If they default on that in some way, I'm not sure how that would happen, then that would impact all of these leverage trades that you just described, right? So if somebody borrows in Japan and then buys American assets, then all of a sudden, because you need to repay that money that you borrowed in Japan, then you need to pull that out of all these American assets, right? And I think we talked about this on the last episode where we said that these, Nvidia is bigger than whole stock market indexes of other countries, and that might be money that's borrowed from Japan, large
Yep.
parts. And so if that needs to be pulled back, that will lead to large capital outflows out of, potentially the American markets or other markets. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but that's roughly my version of a week ago when I heard somebody explaining this.
No, yeah. It's basically that, you take money from one pot and you put it in another pot because you feel like that second pot is gonna give you more. And the moment that balance starts to change, and if you're over leveraged, you get margin called, and you have to pull money out and bring it back to that first pot to pay it back.
Yeah. And so the interest rates in Japan are so artificially low if they were to raise them. And I feel like at some point you have to, because the bond market just won't do it anymore, right?
Yeah, so dude, after the call, go and have a look. The Japanese bond yield is like a straight line up. So it's definitely broken, right? It's a straight line up, and
So, okay, like, give me a sec. I always have trouble with with the lingo here. The bond yield is what you pay or what you get paid when you buy a bond.
yeah, it's the interest rate that the
Yeah.
government will give you if you lend them money. So so just think that you're a Japanese pension fund, right? So you are mandated to take these funds, this money that comes in every month from all the employees in Japan, right? And you have to then deploy this to try and make sure that the people paying into it have something to retire on when they get older. But you have no chance to really invest it in safe Japanese assets because the interest rates are so low.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do? So you have no choice but to look overseas, right?
To deploy the money overseas.
Yeah, right. Because you're getting all this Japanese yen from all these employees that are paying into their state pension. So you're sitting there with a bunch of Japanese yen, but you can't put it in Japanese government bonds, which is what would be the safest choice because
Yeah.
you don't have currency risk.
But
Anything
now the yields
happens.
are going up, you say.
Exactly. So imagine the 30 years of everyone every year rolling those pension funds into Nvidia, into, I don't know, US treasuries, into Swiss francs, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now suddenly, just like a flash in the pan,
Mm-hmm.
a flash in Japan, the rate's going up from 0.5% to 3% to 4%. So you've got 8 times more returns
Yeah.
if you bring it home
So the
compared
capital
to.
is now flowing back. Yeah.
Yeah, because for them on a risk adjusted basis, suddenly it doesn't make sense anymore to not invest in Japanese yen.
Yeah.
And you don't have the hedging costs, you don't have the hedging risk.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just about relative risk, right? It doesn't mean that it's a binary decision. It just means, hey, actually, we can bring some money home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or if you don't bring money home, your new risk-free rate is 4%. Your new hurdle rate is 4%. So don't
Yes, you got to
bother.
beat that.
Yeah, don't bother doing anything unless you have a good shot of beating 4%, right?
Yeah, risk free. Yeah. And the way I understood this, right? Like if it was only the Japanese pension funds, it wouldn't be that much of a problem. They're certainly quite big, but I think there's lots of overseas traders as well that borrowed, bought this cheap Japanese money and then invested that overseas as well.
Yeah.
So that's why it's much bigger than just the pension funds.
Yeah, so that unwind is happening now. And so you actually see while the Japanese JGB, the government bond yield was going up, you saw today that the S&P and the Nasdaq went down, the Russell 2000 went down, all the US markets went down, right? And
Well, and also, this morning you sent me, no, yesterday evening, you sent me a picture with gold going up and you were asking
what
what
broke?
broke.
Yeah.
That might be the answer then.
Yeah, exactly. And I've never really, like, I've been watching these markets super closely for years, and I don't really remember a time when everything else was going down, but
Hmm.
gold and silver was going up,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah, true.
right. So it's like for the first time, gold's acting like a safe haven when the
Hmm.
Japanese yen isn't. It used to be the opposite. Like gold was the risk asset and Japanese yen was the safe asset.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it seems to be now correlated with what the Americans are doing, less trust in their currency over time. So they've definitely eroded that. So there's not much left for people to go into, right?
Yeah.
Like for us or for me personally, right? There's so many things that investing in any of these other assets would mean risk. Like even I don't have a lot of money, right? But it's like holding US dollars. I'm not sure what the Americans are going to do with all that stuff that they're currently doing, which seems so outside of what they used to be doing, right? So the last 50 years have been quite stable. They'd invade some country and do something, but now with like trying to take Greenland, that seems very outside of what they've been doing for the last 50 years. They've
Yeah.
never been in that sort of conflict with their very long-term allies.
Yeah, yeah. And it to me it signals the end of an era, right? Because if you have uncontested power, right? If you're like the top dog, you make sure that you manage to get things done without you actually needing to show your hand,
Yeah.
right? Because the moment you show your hand, it means everybody's aware and now everybody knows that there's a
Hmm.
game afoot, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So to me, the fact that they're so blatant and blunt about these things just signals to everybody that hey, there's a new game in town, right? The old rules, you better figure out what the new rules are because the old rules don't count.
So you're saying like they're not the top dog anymore, and now they have to play the game slightly differently.
Well, even if they are the top, they are not as far away from the rest, right? They've got competition now, right?
Yeah.
So they must know that if we don't do this and we don't be blatant about it, we might lose it. So the risk is too high. We have to just take it now, even if it means we have to show that, like
Yeah.
let the mask slip off because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
too
Yeah.
important to risk.
Yeah. Yeah. The rhetoric on this was definitely more diplomatic in the past.
Yeah, exactly. Like you'd get things done via, oh, there were these protests. Oh, this government that's unfriendly towards the new liberal world order suddenly got overthrown,
Yeah. Or you do a
etc., etc.
referendum in Greenland, right? Right, where
Yeah,
the people of Greenland would say, "Oh, we want to be part of America," and that's now the thing that starts it, and not this blatant, "We're going to take it from you if you don't give it to us, and we're going to do tariffs if you don't."
yeah, exactly. Interesting. And another super interesting thing today, again, like all these things happen in the last 24 hours. Right? Ursula von der Leyen at Davos says, oh, in 1971, when America took us off the gold standard unilaterally,
Hmm.
it threw the whole financial system into, it was a big disruption and blah, 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 right? Like, why is she mentioning that? Like, everyone knows.
Yeah. Why is she saying that now?
Yeah, why is she saying that now? And then she's saying that because of that and because of the events that we see today, we need to
Hmm.
come up with a new system, right?
Yeah.
So why is she saying that? And why now? And, why when all the bonds are melting down and gold's melting up?
Yeah. Well, what new system is she going to propose now?
Who knows? I guess they're gonna slow roll it. If they wanna if they want people to buy in the new system, I guess they need the old one to be embroiled in a lot of chaos so that everybody goes, oh yeah, 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 just give us something to, give us stability.
Yeah, but we're not there yet. I think it's not chaos. I mean, it's still everything seems quite stable still,
Yeah,
and the normal person won't notice Japanese bond yields, or
yeah,
maybe they
no.
notice, but they won't draw the conclusion what impact that has. They would just see it and be like, okay, let the
Nah, they
Japanese do what they do.
they need a few weeks of bank closures, stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah,
Get
yeah,
everybody all stressed out.
yeah. Well, but I mean, it's definitely really interesting to see that this thing that's been happening. We've both been selling calls and puts to generate income, and um, I think for me, what has been interesting, I've started with it in September, so I haven't been doing it as long as you have. But in that time, I've been mostly selling puts on GDX. So GDX is this gold miners ETF, and it has more volatility than gold itself. So the premiums that you get paid for selling these options are quite high. And what's interesting is that I've been selling these puts, and I've been selling them pretty much at the money, right? So I sell this put at the current price where it's at. And for the last 6 weeks or so, I've been selling at the money puts, and I'm not getting assigned, meaning
It just keeps
the
going up.
GDX just keeps going up every single week, right? And I sell these weekly. So I sell 1 week out at the money. So let's say GDX is at 80 and I sell a put for 80. That means if it drops below 80, I need to buy GDX for $80, but it doesn't do it. It just keeps going up every single week, which is fascinating, right? It's good for collecting the premiums on the one side, but on the other side, of course, I'm not getting the capital gains from holding the actual GDX. But I'm fine with that. I've got other ways to participate in the upside. But still, yeah, it's just really only going up.
Yeah, I think
And that
there's
must be some signal, right? Of
yeah, a rotation happening, right?
mm-hmm.
Because if you look at the opposite, if you looked at sovereign bonds, especially Western bonds, it's just
Mm-hmm.
going down. It's
Yeah.
just going down,
Well,
right?
but even other assets, like you might look at the Nasdaq. It's not only going up. Or you look at Bitcoin. It's definitely going down, or it's staying flat pretty much, right? But gold or gold related stuff just only up. I looked at the silver chart, and yeah, that's pretty
It's
crazy.
yeah, silver to me, right? Silver to me is not. I think in most of human history, we've always put the two in the same basket, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think today it would be a mistake to do that. I think you have to
Yeah,
look at it like you were looking at rhodium or looking at platinum or something like that. But it's just more complicated because the average person on the street, while they can't go and buy a pallet of 5 tons of copper or a few barrels of oil, they definitely can buy a few ounces of silver, right?
yeah.
So I
And
think
people
that's why,
still see it like that, see it as
yeah,
something similar to gold. But what you're saying is that it is not, because silver also has real world use where gold doesn't have too much of that,
yeah,
Like
exactly.
silver.
So I don't
Yeah,
think gold would go up in a straight line like that unless it was some government intervention to say, hey, we're now backing our currency with gold, right? Then you'll
yeah,
see gold go up, gap up, and stay there. But
yeah,
silver, right? I think it's like this Pavlovian response. Like people look at the price on the screen and they say nothing goes up in a straight line. And they're right. They're right. But the problem is this time, it's not that it's different this time, it's the same this time, but it's the same as every other time when you need something, right, at all
mm-hmm.
costs, and there's just not enough supply. So the only way it resolves is like if it's so high the price that people shut down lines, right? Because they say, okay, we're not producing this product anymore because silver's just too expensive. But that's not going to happen for a long, long time. Like, unless it's $200, $300, you know?
Yeah. So what you're saying is sort of the industrial demand couldn't have really gone up that much, right? To create that extra demand to make it go up in a straight line, right? But the safe haven demand, that has gone up, and that has then now also led to this industrial demand to pay a higher price, or maybe like pull some of these orders forward and order a bit earlier than they would have.
I think what happened was for a long time, silver, after silver got demonetized, right? The world had a glut of silver, like just sitting around. There's always silver and silverware. There's always old coins, right? I
Yeah.
just gave my nephew and niece like a Prussian Empire, I think 3 Mark or the 5 Mark coin,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
right? It's super pretty, right? It's worth
Yeah.
about 50 euros now. So there's always these coins lying around. There's always old silverware, right? And in the past, when silver was in short supply or there was a bit of a retail surge, you
Mm-hmm.
know, this people would say, okay, offer me your silver, and then people would come and give them bags of old coins and then get paid handsomely. You know, you would sort of get silver flowing again.
Mm-hmm.
But I think because for so long the industry always had this never-ending glut of silver from when silver got demonetized,
Mm-hmm.
right? They never never came to that as a big I don't know what you want to call it, like a big cartel maybe of
Mm-hmm.
silver users. They never got together to say, hey, do we not realize that silver is produced only as a byproduct?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like silver's only produced when people mine lead and zinc and copper,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So if tomorrow we said we need more silver, there's no silver mines to ramp up,
Mm. Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
the lead and zinc mines and the copper mines, they're not going to care what the price of silver is. It's not affecting their business enough. They're
Yeah.
not going to go and mine more copper so that the 2% of silver they mine is now worth
Byproduct.
4%. Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to have to rise a lot in price to impact that decision, right? To mine copper just to get more silver byproducts from it.
Or the price has to go up so high that copper becomes the byproduct of that mine,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Then silver takes the wheel, you know.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not saying there's not going to be pullbacks. Because what we see on the screen is a financialized number, right? The very interesting thing for me is I see that in Shanghai and in India, the price is $10 more an ounce, and it's
Mm-hmm.
constant.
Mm-hmm.
So that shouldn't be the case in a globalized economy. How can silver be worth 10% more in China? Then everyone would just empty whatever is in North America and Australia, send it to China,
Sell it
get that
there.
$10, and then come back
Yeah.
and do it again.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's not happening because of the paper markets or the derivative markets that are on top of the actual physical asset.
I don't know, right? I guess that's what a lot of people are assuming, or, but of course, then they get called conspiracy theorists and whatnot. But if you do go and put money into silver now and you're not buying an actual silver coin, it means you're putting money into a financial account somewhere and you don't really know. It's the classic age old problem, right? You don't know if that money is buying a silver bar to then put in a safe, or are you just given a receipt to say that counterparty now owes you silver?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And for most ETFs, right, if you look them up, that's exactly how they are defined, right? So the SLV is that. That's I think the biggest silver ETF, and that definitely is not or at least that's how I remember it. It's not one of these where they store actual silver for every time you buy.
Well, apparently they say that they're supposed to,
Mm-hmm.
but I think there's a clause in there that says in extreme market events they're able to cash settle you, right? You cannot go there and say, "Hey, I have $1 million worth of SLV shares. Give me the silver bars."
Yeah, deliver it to
But
me now. Yeah,
I think at PSLV with Sprott you can.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. These Sprott, they seem to be different, right? They seem to have that actual physical silver, gold,
Yeah.
uranium
Yeah.
stored somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. So thanks for giving me a call, because it forced me to come out for a walk and get away from the screen, because I've been just glued to the screen today watching everything happen and not believing what I'm seeing, right?
Mm, yeah,
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 I think we're truly entering into a new chapter.
yeah. Where things happen.
Yeah, yeah, that facade, right? That facade where it's I think so far it's been like a duck on water, right? You look at the duck on the river and you think everything's smooth, but you can't see that actually below the surface there's so many things happening to keep things in play and
Mm-hmm.
in balance. And I think now, like, we're starting to see, right, there's actually so many cross currents and so many issues that need to be solved. And I think they're coming to a head.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. That's quite interesting. Yeah, honestly, I've ordered some physical gold, and they had delivery times of 4 weeks. We'll see if I
That's
actually get
crazy.
it.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
I didn't ask about silver. I'll do it next time. Yeah, I was trying to turn a bit of my um, Phys PHYS. So that's also a Sprott ETF, I think, into physical gold that I have here in New Zealand, and don't rely on that US traded, US held. Went with a provider in Auckland, and they said they need 4 weeks. And I think they order it from Australia. Interesting. They need that much time to get it here, and then they don't
Yeah.
have any here.
Yeah, and I think it's also interesting for me to see how people are willing to pay such a premium for spot, like to have it in their hands now
Mm-hmm.
rather than wait.
Yeah.
You know, I sent you that message today with GDX, right? I said if I was to sell a put at the money, I think 6 months out, I would get like annualized 25% in terms of premium, right?
Yeah,
If
I saw that.
I
Yeah.
just have to do that twice a year. So to me that blows my mind, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
it means
And the
in
weeklies are even higher, right? Like what I'm
yeah,
selling, I get like 3%, 4% a week right now.
yeah, that's just insane. Why so much volatility? Why so much premium, right? And
Mm-hmm.
to me that's actually something to also be a bit cautious of, because for me it's like a bit like the dog that didn't bark. Why are gold mine, you said GDX has been going up, right? You're right, but it hasn't been going up as much as gold. Silver's the same. The silver mining ETF's been lagging the physical, which
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't be the case. So I'm wondering if there are some participants in the market actually being worried about these mines getting nationalized, because that's why everybody just wants the end product.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a
Yeah.
loss in trust in the system, why buy a mine in a jurisdiction? If even America is not a safe jurisdiction now, then what is a safe jurisdiction?
Yeah. It's pretty much only your own country.
But even your own country, do you even trust your own government, right?
Well, yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, if they could nationalize a mine, then like,
Yeah,
so we're going to give you only $70 for per share of that, while they were worth 140.
yeah. Like China's the second biggest producer of silver in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think also for gold. But no ounces leave the country,
Yeah.
and they're all mined by state-run mines. So I'm pretty sure those guys aren't getting paid $5,000 an ounce, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So who's to say that when you buy Newmont or Pan American Silver or whatever, that's not going to happen as well when push comes to shove?
Yeah. True. I mean that. Yeah. There,
And I,
there's all sorts of risks with that, right? I saw these guys on Twitter. I think it was this Peter Levels again talking about uh, that the safe assets, had to be gold, silver, and real estate. Like can if like shit really hits the fan, and you maybe have to become a conspiracy theorist here, but like who knows if even that is safe, right? What if your country says you can't sell your gold anymore, or we're going to give you $2,000 an ounce for your
yeah,
gold,
and you do it
and
patriotically. You have to give it up patriotically because we need it.
yeah, and it can't be traded anymore. So then you're in trouble, right? You put all your savings into that; it might have doubled by now or tripled. But if you can't sell it, you can keep it, and maybe they keep this rule up for 20 years, so you can't buy anything or do anything with your gains for the next 20 years. Then you're
Yeah,
also in trouble.
yeah. I mean, America did that in the
Yeah,
so you know,
yeah.
and
Exactly. You could still do it, right? But yeah, I don't know. So then is real estate the best investment, and I'm not even sure about that, because they could also take that or regulate that, implement rules around that would harm people.
yeah. So basically, to me, to answer this question properly, you need to choose the right investments, but you also need to domicile yourself in a geographic location where you're not being governed by a bankrupt mob, right?
Hmm.
Because you then become their subject to be milked if they're bankrupt. And the imbalance in deficits versus surplus, the worse it'll be for you, right? The harder it'll be for every citizen.
So which countries would you think are more prone to that situation?
I think if international trade takes a hit, then countries that have requirements for imports, they will be under more pressure, right? Because they can't meet their basic needs.
Hmm.
So imagine in Australia, you would hope that a country like in Australia will do all right, right? Because it's not too cold, they've got enough commodities, they grow their own food, they've got energy. You would hope that they could get smart enough to think about how to use their natural gas resources themselves rather than shipping it out, etc., etc. And I think that's why countries like China that are very reliant on imports have spent the last few decades building out like the One Belt One Road project and stuff like that, right?
Hmm.
Because they want to know that, hey, when something goes down, we've still got rail networks to all these producer countries, whether it's Southeast Asia, whether it's Africa, whether it's Central Asia, right? And
Yeah,
that we'll still be able to let goods flow.
yeah, yeah. I don't think this like that you could have a breakdown in global trade, right? That will always,
I
because
hope not.
all countries are so interlinked, right? Like, why would you
Yeah,
stop that?
yeah. But you saw what
Because it's
happened
in the
during
best
COVID,
interest of
right?
all of them, right? Yeah, I mean, maybe things were a bit slower, but it was like trade was still happening. You can still order stuff from other countries.
Yeah, yeah.
Flying, tourism that went down. You could still I was in Australia then. You can still order everything online and get it delivered, and most of that came from China. We had enough oil to fuel the cars.
Yeah, it should be that way, right? It's a real crazy tail event if it doesn't at least stay to that level.
Yeah. The question is like, do you want to go through the trouble of preparing yourself for these crazy tail events, right? And I think there's a cost to that too. So I think you said this a while ago, right? That you can prepare yourself for everything, and these preppers do that, but there's absolutely also a cost to that because you're gonna stop living your normal life, and I'm not sure if that's a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, hedging is always expensive, right? And keeps your eyes away from the prize, which, yeah. I don't know. I think, everyone we can just be resilient, try not to live in the worst place, and, keep a bit of surplus, make sure you're useful to society, and then trust humanity at large to get us through, because it always has, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah,
All right, man, dude, it's getting late here, and I'm starting to lose the
your
feeling in
battery,
my fingers. Batteries. Um, I'm currently at 22%.
pretty good. Well, interesting chat again. We've
Yeah.
been very geopolitically heavy right now, just because I think that's what's been going on. But that's not what we're always going to talk about, of course. The idea is to talk about pretty much whatever comes to mind, right?
Yeah, I want to talk to you about the going to the gym next time.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've seen that you've been on a run, and with all these shark attacks in Australia, I'm not so sure if I'm going to keep up surfing for much longer. So I'll need to go to the gym too.
That would be a shame, man. You need to find a shark-free area. Maybe Hainan is it?
These guys, they're going to swim pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, I know.
The
My son tells me all the time where the great
He's a
whites
shark
are.
expert. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's not just the great whites, but it's also the bulls. So there's been in the last 3 days, I think there's been four in New South Wales, four attacks, and
What?
one on my local spot where luckily nobody got harmed. The bull shark just bit an 11-year-old's board. Then a young one, like an 11-year-old, got bitten in Sydney Harbour, and then another attack that like caused like severe injury. But I'm not sure if the guy's going to make it in Manly, where we also had a surf before. And then
Yeah.
another one on my favorite spot on the East Coast, Point Plummer, happened as well. All in that
Damn.
last 4 days. So they had really murky waters. And yeah, that's like typically what causes the sharks to come out, specifically the bull sharks. And they're quite aggressive. So yeah, it's been some interesting time.
Hmm. So not only in geopolitics, but also in the Pacific.
Also in the Pacific, yeah. So yeah, I might be going to the gym a bit more and avoiding the murky days, the rainy days, the overcast days, the days when there's no one out.
Yeah. Then whatever it is, you'll find a way to stay active.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about next time. Let's talk about the gym. How you're motivated, how you do it, how you deal with coming back from holidays or travel, getting back into the routine.
Yep. Yeah, let's talk about it next time. I'm pretty excited about it.
Cool, man.
All right. Thanks, Flo. Catch you later.
See ya.
See ya.